Welcome to Project Home DIY Succulent Hanging Shelf Box Tutorial. We have a brand new project for you this month, and it actually includes full-size paints, which is super exciting for you guys because you're going to have lots of extra for future projects. Let's get started. So this is the box that you'll be receiving this month. This is what it's going to look like. If you're brand new to Project Home DIY, it will include your starter kit, which is your glue gun, the sanding block, glue sticks, and a paintbrush. If you are not new to Project Home DIY, those things will not be in your box. So just keep that in mind. You'll be using those every month that we get started. So I'm going to be working right out of the box so you can see that everything you absolutely will need for this project comes right from here. Wait, I take that back. There's going to be one thing that you need that I don't have in the box that everybody should have at their home, which is cooking spray. And we'll get to why you're going to need that. But you'll need a little bit of that, or any type of oil, butter, anything that will allow things not to stick. So for the unboxing, here is your starter kit. Again, if you're new to Project Home DIY, you will receive this in your first box. If you're not new, you won't receive those items. You'll already have them. Okay, so this month you're going to be creating a hanging shelf. Here's the shelf, and we will paint this and distress it and make it look cool and old. You'll have a quote block with my favorite best-selling quote, which is "You is kind, you is smart, you is important." You will have a succulent. There's a couple little succulent stems in your box. You can choose which one you want to use. You'll have gloves, Dixie cups, a craft stick, toothpick, a little 2-inch succulent planter, paint bottles. Here's the full-size paint bottles. You'll have lots to use, and each month you will receive the paint colors that you need for that month's project. A bag of concrete, masking tape, the "You is kind" decal, and in here we have an old glass bottle, and everybody's glass bottle will be a little bit different because these are one-of-a-kind things that I've gathered over the years, and treasures. I took treasures from my kids, so you'll have to treasure this because they no longer have them. So that's our unboxing. The first thing we're going to get started doing is with the shelf. We're going to make this nice and distressed, so take your masking tape. And I don't want to get paint on these ropes, and I don't want you to take these ropes off. So take the masking tape, and I want you to wrap around the string with masking tape, or the rope, on all 4 of them so they don't get paint on them. And just do it in a certain area, not the whole thing, because then we'll just pull the rope to that area where you have it taped off, okay? So don't worry about doing the whole thing. Okay. And this month is super fun because I love concrete. I love the look of succulents. Like, that's all really in right now, so you're going to be doing a little bit of it all. And to distress and make stuff look old for this shelf, we're going to use the brown paint and the ivory paint. And like your box is going to come with multiple colors of paint every time, and you may have some left over from last month, you may have some of your own. Feel free to use your own colors to make it you and fit your home decor. You don't always have to use what I provide you, but I will provide you with everything. So just in case if you don't have what you need, you will have the opportunity and the chance you can do any color you want. So don't feel like you have to stick with the color choices that I've made for this box, because you do not have to. Okay, so this is just gonna prevent us from getting paint all over the rope because we're not gonna untie the rope and put it all back together. You sure can if you want, but I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so then once I have this piece taped right here, I'm gonna pull it back through like that so you can see that it will be protected, and we'll just take that tape off at the end. If you do the tape too thick, it's not going to fit through the hole. Like this one's not being very nice. So I'll straighten that out. Okay, there it goes. All right. Okay. So it's going to be kind of tricky to keep these out of the way. So maybe let's tape them together because they can't get paint on them. Yeah, we'll just tape them up a little bit. Okay, so I just taped them up like that a little bit so you can keep them up out of the way. All right, we're gonna take the brown paint and I'm just gonna use a piece of paper and put a little paint on it. That's all we're gonna need. And then when things get distressed and old, think about an old antique dresser. When it travels and the old boats that it travels around in and all the moving that gets done to it, it's going to rub off and be distressed and worn in places like edges and where knobs are, that kind of stuff. That's where it's going to get worn the most. So that's where you want to really focus on distressing things. So this is going to give you your first layer underneath the paint, which we're going to just do this in brown, just the edges, and you do this just lightly. It doesn't have to be caked on, doesn't have to be full on covered, just a little bit. And we're starting with this because you're going to want the brown to be super dry before you paint the ivory, or else it'll just turn to mush. So get the edges of this painted, and then we can add the ivory after it's dry. There we go. So we're just going to do the edges of this in brown. And then when the ivory's dry, you don't have to worry about the underside for the brown. So just do the edges like this. When you're painting on grainy wood and you have to hold it, always hold on the grain. I guess not grainy wood, but when there's a grainy edge on the wood, you can always hold it there when you need to move your object so you can paint it better, because this paint soaks really well into the grain and you really don't see finger marks when you move it, when you have to paint on those edges. So that is painted. That's what that's going to look like. It looks kind of messy, and it should for a little bit. Okay, so we'll let that dry. And you're done with the brown for now. Okay, so then we'll move on to painting your 4x4 block. It's going to be painted blue this time. So this is a dark navy blue. It's called deep blue, dark blue. So go ahead and paint that, all 4 edges. When I paint, again, I'm just going to use a piece of paper You can use a paper plate, that works too. When I paint these blocks, I keep my hand in the inside like this because it just holds it, and I'm able to paint all 4 sides, or 5 sides, the face and the front and the sides. If you want, you can do 2 coats. It's totally up to you, or you can do 1 thicker coat. So what I like to do 1 thicker coat because I'm super impatient about things, and especially watching paint dry, not my favorite thing. So I just do 1 thick coat. But you can see I'm slopping it on right now. I just want to get all 5 sides covered, and then I'll go back over with paint on my brush and smooth it out a bit. So you can see it's really thin right now. And now I'll dip in my paint and go over it nice and smooth. And that'll smooth it out and give me the look I want. And keep in mind, the thicker that you paint stuff, the harder it is to distress and get those corners and edges worn back off if that's the look you're going for. So things don't have to be super thick either. There's the painted block. Okay, so that's all painted. I'll just set that to the side since I have this one ready. All right, so once that's painted, we're going to move on to a fun part. And this is going to take a little bit of time. I've already pre-made one because it's going to take time for it to dry. But you guys get to make your own concrete succulent pot. So we're going to be using this as our mold. The concrete will take, I would let it set up for at least 10 hours. If it's in heat, it can be less than, but I would say 10 hours. I would set that up for. Can you fill this with water, please? You have 2 Dixie cups in your box this month. You can do this concrete mixing one of 2 ways. The end goal, no matter which way you do it, is to get this concrete powder mixed into a consistency like pancake batter or a thick milkshake. You want it to be pourable. So that's your goal for this. You can either mix it right in this bag, which you would pour the water right in, or you can pour the concrete into the cup and mix it with your stick. I'm going to mix it right in the bag. These bags are super thick and heavy, and they will be able to hold that. So this is the cup full of water. I'm only going to use half to start, just because I don't want to go too much. But just so you know, if you go too much, let this set up in the bag before you pour it. So if it gets too watery, let it set up in the bag before you pour it into the container. And actually, before I start that, I need to do something to prep my cup. So see how there's holes everywhere in this cup? Because it actually is a succulent planter. The masking tape, again, will come in handy. And Matt, can you grab my glue gun? So I'm going to tape around the edges of the succulent cup, all the way around it, taping up those holes so the concrete won't leak out. And then I'm also going to patch it up with a little bit of hot glue, just because hot glue is amazing and it can solve all the problems in the world. It really can. So this is I'll just use a little bit of hot glue and fill in those holes. And I don't know if you remember my trick from last month, but will that hold it? My trick from last month: lick your fingers before you touch the hot glue. And if you do that, it won't stick to you. So lick your fingers before you touch hot glue. So I'm squirting it on the holes on the outside, like my fingers, and just form it right around there. And the holes in the center I'll deal with in a second. So this will allow so it does not leak at all. which we don't really want it to leak, because that wouldn't be any fun. So I'll take the masking tape, and I'm going to take just 2 little pieces and put it on the bottom of the inside of the cup. To cover. Just like that. Covered the holes in the bottom, and then I'm going to take some hot glue and just put it on those holes over the bottom, over the masking tape, just for a double protection right there. Okay, like it, press down a little, there. So my cup is ready, and just keep in mind, anything you see on the inside, like if your masking tape is wadded up in the corner, it's going to show on your concrete that you pull out. So if you want it nice and smooth in there and no bubbles and anything, make sure it's nice and smooth in there. Okay, all right, so I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to take my concrete and my water, and I'm going to pour half in there, and I'm going to use the stick a little, just to get the concrete out of the corners. So see, it's just mixing around a little. And I can actually close it once the concrete, you see the dry stuff out of there, close it, you can mix it up. Okay, so I hardly used, I probably used 1/4 of the cup, so but not very much at all. So keep that in mind when you're getting ready to do yours. But it's it's pourable, do you see it? There it is, pourable. So go mix it around, just keep making sure it's mixed. And then, once it's mixed, you can go ahead and pour it into your cup. Ooh, mine's almost a little too thick, but it's just pouring. You'll want to get all of it out of that bag because you want your succulent planter to be full. Not full, but as big as you can get it. And I might add a little bit more water to that and rinse it out. Okay, so that's how full I got it. It's about 3/4 of the way full. You can go ahead and see that. And I think this is too watery. I'm not going to add this back to it. I think we're done with that. And I like that height. I think it's about this full, so my planter will be about that high, which I'm good with that. So that plastic is garbage, and this guy we're gonna let sit for a while. But here's the trick. If I stick this succulent planter or the little succulent stem in there right now, it's just gonna tip over. So you have to wait until this is set up just a little bit. It's gonna depend on the consistency and the thickness of your concrete and how thin you got it or thick, when you can stick this in. But if I just stick it in now, and some of them, like this spiky dude, he'll kind of stand up on his own pretty good. So I actually might just leave him in there. So I think I will leave that guy in there just like that. And when it's dry and done, do you know what I forgot to do? Uh-oh. So I told you you're gonna need one extra thing, and that thing is the oil. And you must spray the inside of this before you pour your concrete in there. And I didn't do that, but it'll still come out. So if you did accidentally follow along with me and I led you astray, it will still come out, I promise. You may have to cut the side of this open and peel it off, but it will still come out because it is plastic, so the concrete shouldn't stick to it too bad. So you can stick your little succulent in there, keep an eye on it, make sure it doesn't tip over, but those dudes with spikes, they kind of stick up themselves. This guy will probably fall over, and you'll need to wait and time it just right to stick them in there. So once your concrete succulent is ready to go, stick them in there. And like I said, I would give it about 10 hours to dry on its own. Concrete dries much faster when it's in heat or if you use warm water, okay? So that's gonna make it go much faster. If you didn't do that, then that's up to you. It might take a little bit longer when you need to take it out, okay? You can't wreck it by taking it out too late. You can wreck it by taking it out too early, so I wouldn't rush it. There is gloves in your box if you choose to use gloves when you mix the concrete. I didn't get any on me, I'm okay. So I didn't need to use them, but you sure can. So back to after that concrete is done and you sprayed your thing with cooking spray, unlike I did, you can go back to the shelf and it should be pretty dry. Again, I have my stuff in a dryer because that's another one of my tips that I like to teach you guys is when we paint the blocks or this, if you have a little space heater, set it up and set this stuff in front of it. It dries much nicer and quicker. I'm going to take the sanding block and just sand just a little bit because when you paint, painting actually brings up the grain in wood. So it kind of gets rough. So I'm just going to sand that a little bit. Like really a little bit, not much at all. Okay, so just like that, and it makes it nice and smooth again. And we're ready for the ivory. So this might be a little tricky since we have to keep these guys out of the way, but it should still work. I need somewhere to put this. So just a piece of paper. Okay, so we got our concrete planted, we got the shelf pre-painted, your block should be ready to go. You can also sand your block a little, I think it just makes it that much smoother. Okay, that's nice and done. And actually, I think I'm going to do the gold on this first, the decal, just because I want to make sure it has time to dry and I can show you how to peel it off too. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So after you sand this, make sure you wipe it off good so there's no dust on it because the decal won't stick to dusty surfaces. I'm going to take the decal, and it's the You Is Kind. And as you can see, I just peeled the sticker off the back. Okay, peel the white sticker off and keep the transfer tape on because that's what keeps all the letters together. But you can see that important, this word important, it's backwards to you, but that doesn't matter, is the widest thing on this entire decal. So I'm going to go with using that to center this on my block. And then I'll kind of eyeball the bottom and look at the word important and just make sure it's straight along the bottom and that the word You Is Kind or You Is not above the top of the block. So that's all I'm going to do. You kind of just have to eyeball it, make sure it's straight. If you have a level, or what are those called?
Square.
A square? I don't know. If you have one of those things that makes sure things are square, then you can use one of those to straighten it. But most of the time I just eyeball everything. So wing it. All right. So press that down really good. You can use like the edge of this block. Use the edge of anything. Just gonna scrape that down. Take your toothpick and pick up the little corner of the transfer tape. Oh, this is being tricky too. See, you guys aren't the only ones that sometimes have trouble with stuff. Everybody does. Oh, bother. So you have to separate the transfer tape from the black vinyl. That's what I'm trying to do here. And I have really, really bad fingernails, so they don't help at all. Almost. There we go. Okay, so it's separated. And just pull it off. If you peel up one of the letters, just press it back down. Just make sure everything is pressed down nicely, because if not, the paint will leak underneath. So that's what that's going to look like. Okay, that's on your block. And then this is where you use the gold. If you choose to use a different color, use a different color. Totally up to you here. Gold metallic paints are kind of funny too when they go on. So make sure you use kind of a lot of it. And it'll get more vibrant as it dries. So it kind of looks dull right now, but it'll get more vibrant. And when you peel this off, just make sure it is super dry, or else it'll peel up your words. You don't want that to happen. It's not the end of the world if that happens though. So it's covered. It's not the end of the world if that happens, but if it does, just take a small paintbrush and fill in those words that came up. Okay, so I just checked our little succulent planter. He's still standing up straight. It's getting a little warm, so that means it's setting up. I like it. It's all working. You can feel it. It's getting a little firmer. But again, the longer you leave that, the better. We're not going to pull that one out until actually not even during this. I have one already made that I'll show you when it's done. Keep your gold out, because we will be using it. Where is that one? We will be using it on the finished little succulent concrete guy. And this is what he'll look like finished. Right there. It'll come out of there if you sprayed it. Probably if you didn't spray it too. So there's the finished concrete little guy. And he's super cute. And we're going to paint this too. So he can sit right there for a while. And now we're going to finish painting the hanging shelf. So this is the ivory part, and I would put this ivory on pretty thick. Pretty good coverage of it. You don't want to see the brown through it too much. So go pretty good coverage. Again, you can get it around those ropes because you put the masking tape there, so those are covered. You will use quite a bit of paint for this ivory part. I think I have children throwing stuff down the stairs at us right now. They're so cute. Such cute kids. Yep, see, here they are. They think it's very funny when mommy does these and in the middle of it, and they like to giggle. Do you guys want to say hi? Yeah. Okay, you can say hi and then you have to go. Oh, and we have a puppy too. So they'll probably bring him. Okay, I'm just painting these edges really well, getting it covered. You can come say hi. Oh no, no, go.
Can I stay?
No.
Here?
Okay. set it on the table and painted it. That's working well. Remember, have the edges, but if you do still see some of the brown paint show through, that's okay too, because you're actually going to be distressing it and taking that back off anyway, so don't worry about it. This is tricky with the rope, but you can do it. You can just be proud of yourself when it's done and say, yes, I did make that. Or you can choose to not paint it. Or you can choose to just paint it brown, whatever you would like to do. Okay, getting close. You guys, you can go back up. Okay, let's see. That is pretty good and all painted. A little tricky keeping that rope out of the way. If you get paint on it, it's not the end of the world. So there's the painted shelf, fully painted. And I'm actually just gonna hang it on this little hook that I already have up there. Okay, rinse off my hands a little. Okay, so that is painted. That look okay? Okay, and here's the U.S. Kind block. We can peel that off. And that's how it comes off. Pick out those little pieces. And our faithful little toothpick that didn't help us at all before will hopefully help us now. So the D scratch on the sticker part. And no, my toothpick broke. But scratch that out. Pull that sucker out. You can do it with your fingernail too. There's that. Just make sure you're scratching just the sticker part. You don't actually scratch the letter, because you'll scratch the paint off. There's that. And sorry, if you notice there's camera snaps, that's because my husband is taking pictures at the same time for the paper instructions that you get. So that's where we do that. Pull out the Y, the filler in the Y as well. And if it bothers you that there's no O, the center of the O in the U, then you can scrape out the gold paint with the toothpick to make the center of the O. So the gold is super fun because it's iridescent-y looking. I'm gonna put this back in the heater or dryer so we can finish it. Okay, so we finished our block. There's that, super cute. You can sand the edges of it. I do suggest not to sand over the gold because it will take away the sheen, the shimmer of the gold. So don't sand over the gold part, just sand the edges a little bit. And you can wipe it off with a cloth just to get that extra dust off. And there's our finished block. You can sand the edges more or less or however you'd like. Okay, last thing is painting this little, well, not last thing, not yet. We have to let the shelf dry and then we sand it and then we put it all together. But this little guy, we're gonna paint gold around the whole bottom. So I'm going to tape off just along. I'm gonna put my tape so it's just lined up with the top of the cup part where it ended. And this is just gonna give me a clean line to paint the gold. Now the tape does not stick very well to the concrete because of course the concrete's grainy. So when you paint, do not pull your paintbrush back against the tape like this. Pull it away from the tape. Okay, so I'm gonna hold it on the tape and those edges won't get paint down in them. Okay, so here's the gold again. And you'll definitely want to slop this gold on there, okay? And again, pull away, don't go through, don't hit the tape. Pull down and away from it. Okay, paint the bottom. Just make a nice gold box. You can take this paint off. And there it is. So much fun. Okay, now I'm gonna put this in the heater. So give me 1 second. Get this dried. Okay, and I'm back with our shelf. It's all dry. And I'm just taking off the rest of the masking tape. It's a little tricky, but it was worth it because if we didn't have that, we would have had paint all over our rope. So we wouldn't want that. So take the rest of that off. There's the shelf. And then we're going to sand the edges. Make sure it's all the way dry, but sand away and you will see that brown start to show through. So the more you sand, the more you'll see that brown start to show through. So sand away. Of course I wore black today to do this. It wasn't very smart. And you have 4 sides to your sanding block. So if you notice one side isn't sanding so much, just switch to another side. Ooh, these are turning out nice and soft now. They're not grainy, they're not icky. So, okay, that's the way my shelf looks. There it is. Let me straighten all these suckers back out. Okay. And this is, there we go. Okay, let's see it all put together. Now this is a hanging shelf, so the way it balances is with the stuff on it. So when you put stuff on it, just make sure that, sorry, I broke a nail during it, but I had to get that off. Okay, here's our finished succulent planter too. Little gold guy, he's pretty cute. When you put stuff on this, it is going to be tippy because so it needs to be evenly placed and set out. So hands are messy. I'm sanding, and I'm probably a mess. Yep. Let me wipe that guy up. So you can decide how you want to place stuff on it. Maybe you have something more special that you would like on it. But the block and the glass should kind of balance each other out, and then you'll have your little succulent. And you can add him on there anywhere you'd like. And that is your finished product. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm excited to see how you customize it and what fun things you do to yours. Different colors if you choose to do. If you have any questions, make sure you contact Project Home DIY via the Facebook page, or you can email us at support@projecthomediy.com. I look forward to creating a project with you next month. See ya and thank you. Bye.